This is the all-new third generation Theragun Mini. In today's video, I'll talk about what is new and different about this device compared to the previous generation. I'll cover what comes with it when you purchase it. I'll talk about the specifications and features, and then I will show myself using it and provide my overall thoughts. So to start, let's give a brief history of how we've arrived at this device. So we were introduced to the very first Theragun Mini 4 years ago. 2 years ago, we were introduced to the second generation Theragun Mini, which was 20% smaller and 30% lighter. And now today, 2 years fast forward, we are introduced to the third generation version of this mini massage gun, which is once again slightly smaller and slightly lighter. If you go back to my review of this second generation device, the one thing I mentioned is that the only thing I really thought they could do was start to make this a little bit smaller and lighter. And that's really all they've done with this device. There are no huge drastic improvements compared to the second generation. There's some small changes, which I will cover all of those. But overall, we're looking at a pretty similar device that is just slightly lighter, slightly smaller. So I do have my second generation device here. And just for a quick side-by-side here, you do see they are very, very similar looking. Now you'll see that the second generation one, if I hold them side by side here, you can see the second generation one is just slightly longer and slightly wider. And you almost can't even tell the difference looking this way, but it does appear to be just ever so slightly a little bit thinner. Now, from a size standpoint, you feel a little bit different in the hand there. It is slightly lighter. So the second generation weighs in right at 1 pound. The third generation is 14 ounces. So they were successful in making this slightly lighter, but stick around for the specifications where I reveal whether they sacrificed anything from a performance standpoint to make it a little bit lighter. So before I talk about the specifications, I do just want to give a quick tour of this device. So you'll see the shape of it here, that standard Theragun Mini shape. You have an indentation on both sides designed to help maximize that grip. Inside the one indentation here, you have the Therabody branding. On the other side, sort of on the neck here, you have just a small Therabody logo. Looking at one end here, you have the only button on the entire device, which is this silver button. The first generation, this was black. The second generation, it was blue. We now get a silver button. This one button is going to turn the device on and off. It is going to control the speeds, and it will also control the new travel lock feature. You also have 3 lights on one end. Those lights are going to indicate the speeds. And then there's one light in the middle of the device, which is going to indicate the battery life. You then have a small ventilation port for the motor on the other side. On the top of it, you do have a QR code sticker that can be removed. That's just going to give you access to their app. And then back by the power button here, you do have a USB-C charging port. Now this device does come with the ball attachment already on it. That attachment easily just pulls off and can be placed back on. When you pull it off here, you'll see there's just 2 little small bell bearings there that help keep that attachment head on. The one thing that is also different with this compared to the second generation is the surface of this is a slightly different feel. I won't say it's necessarily cheaper, but it does feel less premium. The second generation one seems to have a pretty obvious non-slip sort of rubberized surface to it that this third generation is lacking. It still has a very, very slight version of that, but it is much more of a plastic, just plain plastic feel. And you can tell that it would maybe just slip out a little bit easier than this generation. But based on the shape and the design of it, I don't think that it's going to really easily slip out of anybody's hands. But it's just something that I noticed that's a little bit different with the feel of it compared to the second generation and the first generation of that. So that being said, let's talk now what comes with this device out of the box. So in addition to the device, you do also get a small little carry pouch. The carry pouch has the Therabody logo screen printed on one side. You've got nothing on the other side. You have one zipper that also has the Therabody logo on it. And then you have a small little hook or ring on this side that's made out of fabric. Inside of it, you don't have any pockets or anything like that. It is just a standard soft-sided case with a zipper over the top of it. The device does fit inside of it very, very easily. You can zip it shut. There is a little bit of room for some cords and other things, but you cannot fit everything that comes with the device in it. It's really just to be able to take one attachment on it that's going to be attached to the device, and then maybe your charging cord. So speaking of attachments, it does also come with 2 other attachments. So you have a firm thumb attachment and then a softer dampener attachment. Now all these attachments are closed cell foam. I showed earlier how easy it is to switch these out. You just pull it off and then place it on. This device is going to be compatible with all the second and first generation Theragun Mini attachments, as well as all the fourth and fifth generation full-size devices. It will not be compatible with the newer generation full-size devices, as many of those do twist on. You do also get a USB-C to USB-C charging cable. Again, just to show where that goes, it just plugs in the side here. This is one small change. The second generation was USB-A to USB-C. So you got USB-C to USB-C here. And then lastly, you do get a user manual, which comes in several different languages. And then you get this small little pull tab that has a couple different routines already on it if you don't want to use the app to follow the routines. So just pull one of these out here. This is an everyday ease, just shows you how to use it on your back, your shoulders, and your feet. And you do get 4 of those routines. So now let's talk about some of the specifications and features of this. And as I'm doing that, I will mention anything that is obviously different from the previous generation. So the first thing that I always look at with all massage guns is the stall force and the stroke length. So looking at the stroke length of this is one area where they have made a change, and this is likely where they've sacrificed some performance to make it just slightly lighter. So the previous generation had a 12 millimeter stroke length. The first generation had a 12 millimeter stroke length. This version has a 10 millimeter stroke length. So it is going to be much more vibrational feel than their true percussive feel of their full-size powerful devices, which are 16 millimeters. Now they do have some full-size devices that have that shorter stroke length. The Theragun Relief, for example, which is also a device that I felt is not personally strong enough for me, but this is going to be the same stroke length as that full-size device. So from that standpoint, we are getting just a slightly shorter stroke length, which is ultimately what helped make this a little bit lighter. I think it's an interesting sacrifice because I think the second generation at 1 pound was already pretty light. I don't know that they necessarily needed to sacrifice that just to find something that was a little bit lighter, but that is a business decision they've made. And we now get a device that might be a little bit more appealing to those people that felt like the previous generations were too strong. Next is the stall force, and this is not something that they advertise. This is just based on my personal experience, but I'm gonna estimate that they reduced the stall force from the previous generation about 10 pounds. When I reviewed the second generation device, I estimated that that device had a stall force of 20 pounds. I'm gonna estimate that this one is 10 pounds. I will go ahead and demonstrate that here. I'm gonna go ahead and just turn the device onto the highest speed and just show how easily it stops here. Now, one thing that I have sort of changed my tune on over the years is how important stall force truly is. I used to think that it was really, really important, especially when you're looking at some of those bigger muscle groups. You didn't want the device to stall out, but that's when I really thought you should be pushing into your muscles. As I've learned more, I've learned that you really should just be floating this device over whatever muscles or tissues you are massaging. So the stall force really shouldn't be playing a huge factor. Now, certainly if you are a bigger person and you want to be a little bit more aggressive, you do have to push on it a little bit, and it may stall for you, especially if you're doing this on your legs or other parts of your body where you just want to push a little bit more. But overall, for a small portable travel device, I don't think that that stall force is super, super important. I don't think this is going to really stall the way most people are going to use it in their everyday life. Now, again, if I want to get it to stall on my arm here, I can. And I'm not pushing overly hard to get it to do that. So just something to be aware of if that's important to you. If the stroke length is important to you, you might be better off with that second generation device, which is just slightly stronger from that standpoint. Now, since I did just turn the device on, let's go ahead and talk about how you do that, and I'll talk about the speeds as well right away. So in order to turn the device on, you do just quick press the button. It is going to automatically come on to whatever speed it was last on when it was turned off. So here I just had it on the highest speed. In order to change the speeds, you just quick press that again. So you see you've got the white light there indicating that it is on the lowest speed. This is going to be 1,750 percussions per minute. In order to change that speed, you just hit it again. This is 2,100 percussions per minute. And then the third one there is 2,400 percussions per minute. So quick and easy way to turn it on and off, adjust the speeds real easily there and quickly. Now this does have Bluetooth compatibility, so you can actually sync this up with the Therabody app. In the Therabody app, you can actually choose every speed from 1,750 all the way up to 2,400 in 50 percussion per minute increments. So you really get 14 different speeds from the device if you move over to the app, and you can actually just use the slider to control that. You can also use that app to follow along with roughly about 90 to 100 different routines that will actually guide the device. It'll tell you what attachment to put on it, and then it will just control the speeds of the device and pause so you can switch to different areas and just follow everything on the screen with that. There is also a beta version of the Therabody Coach, which allows you to program it with different smart devices like a Garmin watch or Strava and actually come up with designated routines that are specific for you based on the data that it's collecting from your smart wearables. So pretty cool there that it's got that technology. That coach feature is new, but the Bluetooth compatibility with the Mini is not new. The second generation had that. The first generation did not. But in terms of second generation to third generation, we're getting the same sort of functionality from that Bluetooth app. The massage gun is not adjustable at all, so it is just fixed at this one angle. Obviously, you can kind of hold it a lot of different ways real easily here. You really can't get to your back super easily. You'll be able to get to your shoulders, some of your lower back here, but you're not going to get that same sort of triangle handle designed to be able to pull it in different directions against your back or push and just do different things that you might get from their full-size triangle devices. But it is fixed at this angle. Now the battery on this, I mentioned it is USB-C for the charging cable. It does have a 3-hour battery life. Now there was some confusion with the second generation review when I did that. So they currently advertise the second generation as being a 2-hour battery life. But when I reviewed it, there was one time that was printed on the box. There was a different time that was published on their website. Currently on their website, the second generation is a 2-hour battery life. Third generation is a 3-hour battery life. So we got smaller, we got lighter, we got a shorter stroke length, but we got a longer battery life. So for people that are going to be traveling with this, that is a big win because maybe you don't need to take your charging cord. If you're only going for a little weekend trip, just make your packing a little bit lighter overall, not having to pack that cord and getting a smaller device. So 3-hour battery life, that is going to be dependent on what speed you're using it on, how frequently you're using it, and how much pressure you are applying against that motor. Certainly if you're pressing and stalling it or getting it close to stalling, it's just going to have to work a little bit harder, and that battery life's probably not going to stretch to that full 3 hours. But either way, we're a pretty far ways ahead of that second generation at being estimated an hour longer. And I think it probably goes without saying, but that battery is not removable from this device. In terms of noise, it is equally as quiet as the previous generation. So again, this is it on its highest speed. You're not going to disturb anybody. I take my Theragun Mini on the plane. I use it a lot. It's quieter than the actual ambient noise in a plane. I don't think you're going to really disturb anybody in an office setting or anywhere that's really quiet that you might be using this. So certainly a win there. It is a little bit louder when you're using it, but again, I'm talking over this at its highest speed and it's not causing any sort of interruption. So definitely a win on the noise front. The price point, at least for now, is nearly identical as the second generation. So the second generation right now is priced at $200. This is priced at $210. I do expect over time that they will either phase out the second generation or the price points will just have a little bit more of a discrepancy there. But for now, they're at least giving us a little bit of a choice to say, do you want a device that has a little bit more stall force, a little bit more stroke length, or do you want a device that has a shorter stroke length and is a little bit lighter? You know, kind of take your pick there. You get just to choose the $10 difference. So right now, at least, as this has just been released, it is a win for the customer, but we'll keep an eye and see what happens there. For that price, you do also get a 1-year warranty. That's going to cover anything that might go wrong with this device within that first year. And then just 2 other things that I'll mention about it. So this does come currently in 3 colors. You have a black, a desert rose, which is sort of like a dusty pink color, and then an oat, which is sort of a dark tan. Now this is different than the second generation. They did not have the tan. They had a white version, and then they had a limited edition Alpine mint color that was available for a little while. I think it might still be available. So right now we've got 3 color options. And then lastly is the new travel lock feature, which again is controlled by the only button on the device. In order to activate that travel lock, you just quick press the button 3 times and all 3 lights will light up indicating it has been locked. That just prevents the device from turning on when you have it packed away traveling. In order to deactivate that travel lock, you just quick press it again 3 times. So that is just a quick overview of the new 3rd generation Theragun Mini. In terms of my overall thoughts, I think it is a great mini massage gun. I think they do a great job of appealing to a wide variety of people. I think the reason that they went with a lower stroke length is because they probably got a lot of feedback that said that the previous generation was just a little bit too aggressive. And by going with that shorter stroke length, it's appealing to more of an everyday home user for just general aches and pains. Now, I'd say if you're a high-level elite competitive athlete you might want to consider the second generation if you can still find it when you're watching this video, or consider getting one of the full-size devices, because you're not going to get the same level of power from this mini massage gun as you will from the full-size device. But generally speaking, this is going to be a great option for most people. Now, I personally am a little bit disappointed that they made the stroke length a little bit shorter, that they reduced the stall force, that they got rid of that non-slip surface on it. Those are just a couple small things that I don't think were really necessary to sacrifice just to make it just ever so slightly lighter. However, I do absolutely love that the battery life is longer. I think that is one of the most important features when you're looking at any massage gun, is that you don't have to constantly be charging it. That is one of the things that I loved about their old Theragun Pro models, is that the battery was removable. They don't do that anymore, but that was one of the best features, is because you could always have a charged battery on hand. When you're talking a travel device, you want it to be able to work for a long period of time. You don't want to have to be constantly traveling, especially if you're going to other countries where you need different attachments, things like that. I think that's another win, is the USB-C to USB-C. Now, there certainly is no block that goes with it, but I think as you're seeing more and more devices go to USB-C to USB-C, it just makes it easy to use different cords. You don't have to always have something with you in order to charge it. So I think that's overall a win. But generally speaking, you're looking at a pretty similar device to the second generation. But if you guys have questions about this, go ahead, drop it in the comments down below. As always, I will do my best to answer those. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. I always appreciate those who do. Otherwise, that's it for the third generation Theragun Mini. That's a review. Enjoy your recovery.